So I haven't tried any start attempts. I'll let you guys know how many it takes, and if I take the 60-second break and then it starts. Okay, don't mind the wind, but I just tried 2 times normally, and the 3rd time I held the key for 45 seconds because that had worked once in a previous summer for me, and nothing. So I just stepped out of the car. I'm shooting this video clip. I'll give it another probably 30 seconds. We'll try it again. So this time I'm trying it with less attempts, but I mean, this stuff only means so much. Let's see if it starts. Okay, knocked off the tripod on the ground there, unfortunately, but while I can, I wanted to show you guys exactly what we got here. So interestingly, I haven't done a hard reset or anything, and no, it started on the 5th attempt, okay? So it doesn't take 10 attempts. But alright, so don't lose my train of thought. P2404, I think it's been solved by that vacuum line being plugged in, because SAI is working perfectly fine. What I wanted to say is that vacuum line that we plugged in took away the 2404 code. Okay, so I don't think it was related to the our flap sensor issue at all. But interestingly, right now I have done no hard reset, nothing, and I got no check engine light, only a traction control light fully illuminated, and EPC. So yeah, and if the mic it's up against the steering wheel, sorry about that if there's some odd static, but I just wanted to show you guys in real time what's going on. So the car's idling fine, everything's good, but the check engine light not being on is kind of weird. So just wanted to guys show you that in real time. I won't continue repeating, but yeah, this is more important than the sounds and stuff. And that vibrating you hear back there, don't mind the crap I have in the car. Okay, the seats are in. Remember those flopper things at the back? The sound isn't, actually the sound is from those, yeah. See, I just ran in here with the camera and I lost that seat is folded down so that I can tighten that screw that I told you guys in the previous video I would. So yeah, that sound is still coming from through there, but it should be completely gone once the seat is folded up. So yeah, you guys saw what's going on here. And yeah, let's get the car out, turn it around, and get started with that flap sensor. So I think you guys heard it there in that previous clip, but it seemed like my brakes were binding up a bit when the car was sitting here in the garage. It's a bit odd, but everything's fine. It kind of let loose on its own, but yeah, just thought I'd mention what that sound there was. Okay, so just to show you guys, everything's been going good. That's just an old oil stain I wasn't able to clean. But in here where the car was parked, we've got nothing dripping. Okay, everything is fine. What you see here is from way back when the oil cooler lines were dripping, and this just very dried old oil. So nothing is dripping at all from this car anymore. All of our repairs were good. Okay, so I still haven't folded that seat up back there, but got a bit of oil temperature going here. Nothing crazy. Yeah, so this is where we are right now. I mean, the fact that the check engine light went off itself, I mean, always do a hard reset overnight. That's the safest way to drain all the capacitors, everything, and make sure your codes are all true. But because we have this, I'm not even gonna bother. I already turned the car around. Let's throw it into service position to change a flap sensor. Yeah, I know it's a lot of work. You should do it before. But again, I mean, I'm doing all this extra work to help by parts throwing in a way. Maybe VCDS would help, maybe it wouldn't. Sometimes those scanners still make things difficult to find out exactly where the problem is. But the point is, yeah, in this case, you guys can see exactly which piece fixed what light and what code. So I'm gonna throw this into service position. We're gonna get a genuine flap sensor and see if things are solved. Nice V8. Of course I didn't fold that seat up, and you can still hear those flappers from the trunk flappers. You see, I might be making a big deal out of it, but why is that seat down? Because of some extra steps. Just one person does something stupid on your car and it's always going to stick around with you, which is why I say who you give your car to is very important to work on it. Obviously that reverse camera was from some way previous owner of this car, but look, to this day it's just an extra annoyance that requires extra steps that you're like, yeah, I won't do that now. So it's partially laziness, partially circumstance, but you guys get what I'm saying. Okay, we'll shut her down now, and hopefully on the next start we won't have no traction lights and no EPC. Very interesting that the check engine light decided to clear itself, and yeah, don't focus, Canon. Yeah, I know the light's bad. It's not going to be as convenient to put the car in service position because the car is very low to the ground and it is a lowered car. So I'm going to do it, bumper off, everything, and hopefully the next start will be code free. I have shown how to take the bumper off and put this car in service position detailed in previous videos. So the next clip, it's going to jump to the car already in service position with the headlights in place, because we do not need to remove those for this particular repair stint. Before I do this, it might be possible that a hard reset should have been very important and I really should have done it, which I still haven't. Let's run some quick codes and I'll take it out on the street and we'll see if we can hit 8,000 RPM, if that traction control light. I don't know, I don't want to tear this car apart, but let's run a quick codes and see what the car's telling us. Okay, let's see what we're dealing with here. 2 codes. Okay. We got our intake manifold runner code still there. Alright, it's kind of late, but I'll still open the garage. We'll fire it up and see if the check engine light's back. If it is, we'll definitely pull it and put it into service position and change that bank 1 manifold, because again, I'm very, very sure that that success we had. Come on, focus, you POS. Help me capture proper footage. Okay. Yeah, the vacuum line at the very front from the intake manifold most likely solved our P2404. Oh, and this was the crucial thing. I have not had any SAI issues once with this car yet on cold starts. So that's why I think, and that vacuum line, when you look at it, it runs across the one that double T nipples in that we discussed in a previous video, and it goes towards the SAI system. So I'll get that sensor probably in another section of the video. In this another section of the series, we'll go over that in more detail with the older parts. A lot of small parts here, so I mix up a lot of things. Got a lot of thoughts about all this stuff. Oh, what was I gonna say? That sensor, okay? We'll talk about it later. Jeez. Right now we have a flap manifold bank 1 sensor. That's all we're gonna do. We're gonna take it apart, put it back, see what happens. But right now I'm going to open the garage. We are going to turn the car on with the code reader unplugged, and we will see if the check engine light is here. So unplug that and see. Oh, this is actually not bad because the car is warm to a degree right now. It'll most likely fire up right now as I try to start it. Ready? See, there you go. Sticky starter solenoid is only when the car is very cold and the solenoid is cold. Wow, that is okay. Good. Alright, so for some reason the car needed a drive cycle in and out of the garage with no hard reset to bring its check engine light back in conjunction with its EPC and illuminated traction control light, which sometimes doesn't come on, as you guys have seen in more recent clips. But now that I've got that CEL, I mean, I don't even need to leave the car on, right? We'll just turn it back off again and run the code. No, I'm not even going to run the code. Okay, we know what's wrong with this car, and this POS will not focus. Well, it's not a POS. If you don't give a camera light, it won't focus. Okay, you guys are going to get annoyed right now with all my excessive babbling in the middle of remembering things. We've got a lot to discuss to stay up to par with every small thing that this car is doing. So most likely won't be in this video, but in a future series. I got a whole list of notes in my phone of things that I've thought of that we've done that have repaired things and haven't, and it will all be in next video. So just make sure you follow all the videos. Now I'm going to turn the car off, throw it into service position, and we will continue on. Actually, back with you here one more time before we go into service position is I'm going to run the codes one final time, even though we've run them a million times because we just did the turn it on and we got the check engine light. So let's see what codes it's throwing now, and if it's consistent, that's it. We are going to go with the bank 1 flapper. So okay, now we've got 3 codes after I turn on and off. So we have this, so that's what we're going to do for sure. And we've got our heater circles. Heater circles, we're not even saying. Okay, we got it. This Bosch one double shows you things twice sometimes, and so does the other one. Alright, let's not get into useless facts. We know what our problem is. Let's see what happens. I mean, could still be vacuum. Could still be some kind of vacuum line somewhere, but with the tools that I have, this is the best that we can do. So we're going to get a genuine sensor and change it. Service position time now, finally. Just like most of you, I will take a shortcut if I can. And I mean, what I realized was the carbon engine cover on the front actually is one of the things that was quite a restrictor, because before for the front flap sensor, I tried going through here and the back there, and the top screw you can get off, it's the bottom one that's the problem. Now, the thing is, this is the trusty Craftsman that we have mentioned throughout the series, and I've got a small T20 on there. This is the shortest you can get from a normal hardware store. This stupid camera will not focus on this crap. Jesus, man. How many times do I have to try? Okay, the point is, you see how it has an angle, the Craftsman 1/4 inch? If you have a straight one, it's not going to make a difference, okay? This piece here where it's straight, this all goes in. But we're talking, I needed like 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters less of clearance just to be able to crack that bottom one loose. Threading it in would probably be very difficult, but doable. So if you do have, this will not focus for shit. If you have a thinner one of these, you might actually be able to do it in the car, no bumper off, no service position. But that's the shortest T20 that I could find, and I tried from every angle, okay, even dropping the tool in there and then just barely touching it. And it's the plastic shroud on the rad. It just has a couple of ribs there that, millimetric car, you know what I mean? I decided, yeah, if I really tried to maybe press back the plastic, I could maybe get it. But even that seems iffy. But don't be those kind of people that cut some piece of plastic to make it happen. Because if I wanted to do that, if I cut a piece of that won't affect anything on the rad, but absolutely don't do that kind of stuff to a car like this, okay? So, yeah, because I'm not gonna, if I cut that small plastic support thing, I'd be able to do it. I won't do it. That's not an idea for any of you by any means. So, we are going to go the full route. I'm not going to bother buying another tool. I don't really care. We're going to put the car in service position just to get the front flap sensor off. And the other reason I'm do want to do service position is if we do not lose the EPC light, the 6800 to 7000 limiter, I have that other sensor, which I still I'm pretty tired right now, but whatever. I'm still going to keep making this video. The other sensor that is in relation to the SAI system, we will want to change that because I do have a new one. I'll adjust the bracket, whatever. But we're going to dig into this more, okay? I'm not doing in and out of service position like last time. Last time the car was sitting for a long time. It had to move. So I'm not too pissed off that I didn't figure all this out before I put the car together and did the test drive. I really wanted that 8-part series to be done, which you guys have watched. So this time the goal is to have our 8000 rev limiter back, no EPC light, none of that traction control light stuff. So in this car's case, the service position thing is fine, but it's an Audi, guys. You have to be ready for this kind of stuff, okay? For one bolt, you have to take apart half the car. You could be clever. Like I said, I'm only going to repeat it because some of you might not have the time or the means. You could really start hunting for something that is just a bit shorter than this. And still, even then, you're going to have some godly skills to thread that bolt back in completely by hand, which I think that's doable. Get this on there and do the last turn. Because everything is, even the sensor itself has an odd groove shape. I can't really film it. Okay, it's in there. Maybe you can see it. I've done it before, okay? Inside there, everything is a bit odd. And it's just odd enough that it's not worth it for me to keep carrying. But for those of you with a bit more time and patience, do see if you can get a really, really thin spanner with a T20. So, on with it. Decision made. We're going in service position. And on a bit of a laughing point of thing, after I shot that clip, I was like, you know what, let me try it one more time. And I went in there and I really tried to strategically get the spanner in there with the T20, and I dropped it. And I was like, okay, it's a spanner with the T20, I'll be able to find it and get it. It's not there. I looked everywhere, it's lost in there. I'm pretty sure it fell inside of the plastic bracket where the radiator fan is, and it's sitting way in there. So now we have to take it apart to get at least that out. I guess that was my sign that service position is the answer for most people to do this one sensor properly. But yeah, so even if you have a thinner one, the point here to help is definitely Be extremely careful not to drop it. Good luck with that though, because it doesn't matter how thin it is, you could drop the whole tool because you are literally in there with your fingertips, which almost makes this very, very difficult to near do not try it at all. Now, for the 50th time, I'm going to begin putting the car in service position. So, some tips that might help two people in the future. The spanner that I've lost, which I looked for from underneath everywhere, we're going to have to find it when the bumper's off and the car's in service position. But I usually use that to get the bumper off with the wheels on. Now, I came to turn the wheels without turning the car on because I don't know exactly where that spanner has fallen. I don't know if it's, there's a low chance it has anything to do with the belt, but you don't turn on a car when there's a tool somewhere that you don't know inside the engine bay. So I put it in 2 and I came to dry steer and it was doing it, but the car really didn't like it. I don't want that to have any effect on any steering component. I know it's probably completely fine, but we're trying to move forward with this project, so I'm taking absolutely no risks. So I left the wheels straight, and man, oh man, let me show you what I've been using to get this bumper off with the wheels straight. And it's a very small gap, okay, with the wheels I have in the lowering. So that's a T25 Allen. My T25 on the 3/8 I couldn't find. That's a T30 just to show you. And it's a T20. I'm not looking to strip any bolts, so I'm not using that 3/8 at all. So there's three bolts in the fender liner, which I put an adjustable wrench on my classic T25 bit, and I slowly worked it out with the wrench. Then when you fold it back over here, the fender liner, that one was too hard to get with either one of those size of T25s that I had with the adjustable. So luckily I found that L-shaped Allen, and I was just able to do it with that. But in the end, one of the bolts, it was 2 fingers right up against the tire to do it on the other side. I haven't done this side yet. I just decided to make this clip. So the ratchet, if I had my T25, it would be fine, but I think it's lost somewhere in the Volvo, which is outside, and I don't even want to talk about that car right now. And I could not find it here inside any of my tools. So I'm going to keep working at that. Just a final destination problem that some of you might run into. See, I am sort of a Honda guy still, because with a Honda, you do a quick research sometimes and you can figure something out. I thought I was gonna get the bumper off quickly, and I remembered about those 4 bolts in this area here. And we have a spanner that could be in the fans. Now, I doubt the fans would turn on if I turned the car on completely, but it's like 2 a.m. and you don't turn on a car like this at 2 a.m. So, power steering pump has no guts in the 2 position of the key. So I am just going to dry steer both ways because it's impossible in that small gap to get a ratchet in there to undo those 4 10mm nuts. So if something happens to our power steering, which I hope doesn't, this is also documented. So continuing like this, Indy Firehawks, not going to get off topic. We'll talk about tires in a different video. I managed to get both of them out with that setup there, but my hands were pressed up there against the fender liner a lot. Took a lot of skill to carry them out. Just know that once you spun it enough, those nuts will not want to jump off. Okay, when you have poor sight lines, you're just gonna have to shimmy it around with this piece in your hand here, the actual extension and the 10mm, the deep socket, and just gently carry it out. So this is probably the hardest position. I don't remember in the front bumper video. I think I had the wheels off and it was on jack stands. So this is definitely the hardest position to get it in, but your car probably isn't going to be any lower or crazier than this. Unless you have some really wide wheels on your car, which, I mean, you should be very advanced in skill if you've gotten to those points with these cars. But yeah, enough rambling. It is possible to do it like this too, with getting your knuckles a bit scraped up. Okay, I thought I'd stop here. Turning the wheels that way, sure, it did take, like I said, the car doesn't like the amount of force you have to give it, but it turned the wheels But this time I'm giving the same amount of force. This is the second time I thought I had reached the end and the wheels still haven't moved much. And trust me, I'm putting in good power, okay? So I don't know if this is something what the pump wants to build something up or weird steering thing, but I'll try one more time and I'll let you know. But I'm saying turning it this way is turning out to be more work than that way, which is possibly a bit worrying. Maybe this means absolutely nothing. Okay, so I put a bunch of force on it, and that's as far as the wheels came. It seems like that's their maximum travel, although it might not look like it on camera. But those last couple turns took a lot more force than the other side did. I'm just stating this stuff for the record, so if you guys run into it, I mean, on any other car in the world, it's never been an issue with me, but I've also never had something like this happen where it requires this much force to dry steer the car. But yeah, I'm not going to keep going with it. I'm pretty sure I'm at the end of the steering. Okay, yeah, let me get the other side done now. The two 10mm bolts. And again, although it doesn't make a difference, the car was in neutral both times that I was turning the wheel. This one is probably worth mentioning for some of you. I'm pretty sure in the bumper removal video, for whatever reason, I use a universal joint. But this time, the metal bracket and the coolant hose are really in my way with the universal joint. And plus, I have way less room to work with like this. So I had my feet facing forward, okay? And then I grabbed a 10mm ratcheting wrench. And now here's the most important part, okay? I stuck my left arm straight in there, okay? With my palm facing this way, okay? So up to, I don't know, halfway on my forearm. And the 10mm, the only way I was able to get around the coolant hose, the bracket's at the front, the metal one, but the coolant hose, it was this way. So I had the ratcheting mechanism thought out. My palm was way up there at the center of your screen there. And this was like this, and right there inside there, I just moved this till I got it loose. Then I pulled that out and did the rest off by my finger. Top one should be easier, but in this most difficult position, that's what worked the best for me. And yeah, in these videos, I mean, I think in another one of my videos, you guys saw it. The OZ rims, the two at the back are really minty. These two front ones, I don't know, the previous owners, whoever, I am not responsible for any of this curb rash, okay? I don't like it. It's showed up in my videos. I mean, I can say I didn't do it, but I don't know if you guys will believe it. It's true, but it looks really bad. I don't like it. I don't know what I'm going to do, refinish these rims or get something new, but yeah, if you guys see it, I didn't do it, man. Like, this is some really goopy driver kind of movements, you know, in a 10-owner car that is missing its rims. I'm pretty sure it was the same guy who was dumb enough to sell off the OE rims that come with this car, the beautiful rims, and then the owners afterwards didn't get them. So, I mean, the guy chose a nice rim design. I do really like these rims, but I don't know, man. Okay, I'm just making stuff up. I'm pissed off that they're road rash and they don't look good in my video. That's it. I'm going to keep working on it and get the other one out. Should be a lot easier. Okay, one time I remember I was going into a left turn lane and I was trying to squeeze between two cars in the curb, and I barely bumped my tire for a second, but obviously I came right off and I was moving at almost 1 or 2 kilometers an hour. So I'm not going to fully... No, that curb rash is extreme. That is... None of it is by me. Okay, I'm being way too harsh on myself. I did not cause any of this. Okay, there you go. Let's keep going. I got those two 10mm off and that's it. I'm going to take the bumper off now. My car is low enough that with the wheels on, I'm able to set this down. And now I can get those connectors out. There's no stress on the wires at all. But seriously, for the safest bet, if y'all aren't jack stands or your ride height is different, follow my bumper guide. Okay, this is by no means a bumper guide removal video. Yeah, I really revisited that slow speed experience I was telling you. And I remember hearing you. My windows were down. I just nipped my tire and then I came back off. So curb rash on the two front rims. We'll have to deal with it. I was not responsible for it. But we'll see. Maybe we'll just get... Okay, this is not a rim video. I don't know why I keep going off about that. We have the bumper Back there now, straight Audi style. Vehicle always needing some small work, but that's fine. These are great cars. Let's get the car in service position now. Well, an advancement now that my car is more put together and I have those functioning air scoops on both sides. The horns, when you come to take the front crash bar off, just take the 10mm nut off, screw it back onto it, and set it right inside a healthy air dam. It will put absolutely zero stress on the wire and you'll be completely fine. Even when you pull it out into service position, just 2 inches forward. Okay, serious moment. Very happy we did this because I think we have found out whether the oil pan gasket is leaking on this, or at least the first initial look on oil on clean new underbody components. Let me show you guys where I think it's leaking from. I don't know where, but I'll show you what I just saw. Okay, so see, that's the coolant crossover pipe. Where the oil cooler lines go in is still perfectly clean, but the car's really low. Bear with me. I'll try to get this in there and hope it focuses. But that's as far as my camera will go. As you can see, that is oil. Okay, I know in the camera it looks like it's just a magical spot of dark oil there on the front crossover pipe. See, that's what it is. It's the front crossover pipe. But I assure you from the back, it has dripped and pooled there. So whether this is the primary oil cooler O-rings, or the oil pan gasket itself, or the upper oil pan gasket, or something else, it is not from our previous repairs, but this is a good thing to keep an eye on. And when we have the car in service position and start changing sensors and doing our codes right now, we will possibly turn this into part of this series to find this oil leak. Yo, mysterious Audi stuff strikes again. You know how I was just telling you guys that was just a miraculous spot of oil? It really is. That's as far as I can get the camera, but there's no stream coming to it, and up above it, everything is dry. So we literally have just a one spot of oil on the bottom there. That is so weird. I'm going to clean it up and we'll keep checking the spot in service position, but there is zero stream. I put my finger back there everywhere. It's all dry, all around the tube. It's just literally that one spot. See here, let me go in even more if I can. There, see? Nothing around it. Well, that's on there for the record. I know the mic is probably making messed up noises, but the car's really low right now. This time we'll be using wooden blocks to support the service position to find our tool and do our work. The crash struts are out. This is going to be a short stint, so I've just kept them there. The weather stripping in that piece I've put here. Again, this is not a service position tutorial. I have that on the channel. If you're new to the channel, go watch that if you're looking for it. And follow the bolt storage techniques I have there. This time I put a lot of, for this module up here, I put the 10mm back on it itself. I mean, you're better off storing them away from the car because vibrations could knock stuff like that off. You also don't want to tighten that one specifically too much because it's got some weird brackets. Whatever, that one you might be fine with, okay? But yeah, store them the way I say, or use bags if you really want to be careful. But what I did this time is I just grouped all my bolts for the bumper, the crash bars, the supports, everything, all that crap right there on the passenger footwell in small areas. And I know these things like the back of my hand now. So that's what I did, kept them all in the car, and I can do other projects on the table without mixing up bolts. So yeah, just if you get more advanced, maybe think about doing this. Okay, so I haven't undone the T30 service position bolts left at the top. That's the only thing left. But you see, when you just grab random stuff, like the bricks in the ATV hitch were honestly a lot better, the small interlock bricks. But what I want to say is, you see, when you grab random stuff and those boards are all different sizes and I'm rushing a bit, I'm paying attention. But that front coolant crossover pipe, if one of those boards if I had pushed it in too far, that second one there, it could have put pressure on that, okay? Once I take my service position off. So this thing that I do to make it easier and support it and pull it out, if you're not very careful that your only contact point is on the rusted parts of the carrier holder of all the crap up there, you could cause damage. Okay, so really focus based on what you're using here. This is just an example I thought I would show you guys. And I mean, of course, you might be thinking, why am I not using the bricks again if they were so good, and the adjustability with the ATV hitch? It's because I put them outside the house and it's snowing now, because I did not think I'd be back in service position this quickly, but whatever, we'll use what we have. A risky maneuver leaving that like that, but just to show you guys, you don't need a long extension, but the longer extension the better, because these 4 bolts, the 2 on each side, once you come to undo them all, there's a point where might want to slide forward depending on the grade of your garage or whatever happens. And you might have a tendency, if your ratchet is still in your hand, it's going to fall down and hit the paint on the front fender, which is the last thing you want if you're way too close down there. So this is not necessary, but it is helpful, okay? Possibly for the 1% chance you do not want to damage body parts and paint on these cars. 2 people is optimal, okay? 2 T30 ratchets on both sides and move it together with the person carefully forward. That's the correct way. But I'm even pausing half-assedly and making video clips for you guys when I'm doing things messed up, but whatever, because most of you'll be alone, but you gotta be quick. You're not gonna be filming between. So see, I took both bolts out of here and she slid forward a bit there. I got 1 bolt left here. And then I know inside here, I've spoken about this probably in the service position video, but I'm going to grab it at a strong point. Remember, this piece transfers from metal to plastic in its structure. And you got to make sure yours isn't banged up, because I even recently saw a B6A4 that I might buy, a wagon, and this piece was all busted up, okay? This piece in an accident, it's very fragile and messed up. Mine is fine structurally, strengthfully in this. It just has little cracks in some spots. But really inspect this before you pull it forward, because the last thing you want is things just falling apart on you. So that's where we are. I'm going to pull it forward onto the blocks carefully, and we'll continue. Just in case it might happen to some of you, now that my car is healthy, there's new things I have to go over. So the horn was sitting in there, but this whole carrier starts to tilt forward a bit once you get the last screw out, and that fell down on the ground. Fortunately, nothing happened. It's still fine. But if you hear that sound, don't get scared, okay? It's just the horn falling out of there. It didn't fall out on the other side when I did it, so it's still in there. But what was I going to say? Yeah, when you get to that last bolt, I mean, it's not scary for me because I've done it before, but this whole thing is going to start to try to slide forward. There's a lot of crap here, okay? There's a lot more than you'd have on an A4, a lot of weight to go forward. So that last bolt, my T30 bit, you see it on the floor there, it just jumped out of the socket. Didn't touch any of the paint, but this is what I'm saying. You got to be really focused when you do this, and 2 people is better. But yeah, so the last T30 really bent forward like this, okay? Which isn't very good, but I got it out in time, and I put it in my mouth, okay? You just got to write down on it, like when you're doing framing or something like that, and transfer over here, okay? Don't try to put that somewhere else, and then this whole thing slides out on you, all right? So just framing style, put that bolt and your lips there, and what you're going to do is pick it up, pull it forward. Now, I mean, the bricks and ATV hitch were way better, so really think about something that works good here. Because with this wood, when I pulled it forward, I had a hair of pressure on my secondary oil cooler way up here, and I didn't like that. The bracket was holding it, that rusty part, but adjusting this proved to be more difficult. So my car is a lot lower, so it's harder to see stuff right now because it's at ride height. It's not on jacks like you guys have seen. So all I'm saying is be careful. It's on a bit on the L-shaped bracket too, but that's still a structural point. I mean, I don't know. Here, maybe I'll show you guys. See, right there, it's on structural points. But it's a sensitive thing to pull it forward and do all this stuff alone at once. You really got to pay attention to a lot of factors, or like I've always said, with this front end, even just putting an RS4 in service position, you can cause yourself thousands of more in damage if you're not extremely careful. But we are good. Everything's in the clear. Let's get that flap sensor off. I'm going to adjust out those blocks perfectly. I'm probably even going to put blocks on the other side, because we're going to try to rev this thing up to 8250 this time, when hopefully everything is fixed. And we're going to do it in service position because, like I said, we might have to change the other sensor, SAI related, if that's giving an EPC message. But enough on that. Let me remove the sensor now. Oh, and here's the other part. I just looked in there and I still can't see my spanner with my T20. It's lost. It's gone. I have to search in the fans. I'll tell you guys where it is eventually, but it still hasn't fallen out the bottom or anything, which is really odd. Oh, so I just talked for a minute and a half and the mic was off. Where was I? Okay, it doesn't matter. Just make sure to put your two T30 bolts back in, have 3 points of contact. This whole carrier will move back a little bit, okay, and allow you to lift from the bottom and position things more properly. So it took about 20 minutes of searching and thinking. So I was like, okay, it's a spanner at the front. There's not many places it could go. So I was like, all right, maybe it was stuck in one of the crevices at the back of the bumper. So I stood on a bucket. I went back there. It was in none of, there's a bunch of crevices in the bumper and it was not in any of them. I looked here carefully. I looked inside everywhere. You know where it is? I saw just the end of it. So if I can get just a bit of light in here. Okay, you see those fans there are, it's very small. Like the spanner would barely even fit between the fins, but I saw just the top of the spanner with the one lucky sight in the fan. It has fallen inside of the fan and radiator mechanism and it's way down there. Now, fortunately, it's in a spot that the fan will never catch it. Okay, it's fallen way back there behind the rad portion. So the fans are a lot smaller than the actual rad volume, if that makes sense. Not volume, the rad surface area, okay? The front rad surface area, the fans are smaller. So it's way down there. It'll never get caught up in the fans if the car were to run. But how on earth do I get this out? I guess the lucky part for you guys was as clever as you think you might want to be if you have a front flap sensor code or anything in the front that requires like severe tool dropping possibility. The worst case scenario just occurred to me. And I have to somehow maybe use like the claw end of one of my longer magnets and try to grab it, but this is going to be a task. But I'm going to do it. And I'll let you guys know if I get it out. There's no way I could get it on camera. So I wish I could, but you're going to have to believe me. Okay, so you see this flexing magnet has that claw thing at the end. There is zero sight line to get in there and get through the fins and to grab that with how far deep it is in that big rad there. So I really don't want to take apart the whole car for it. It's fine in there. I might try looking from underneath, but this is probably similar to the Volvo rad, which I changed a while back. And these are usually unitary with the plastic fans at the back and the rad and a electronic control module, which this one has 2 for both fans because sometimes it kicks on probably for the AC condenser. But fortunately for me, it's not going to cause any drivability issues. And I want to keep going forward with this, and I'm sure you guys prefer to see more stuff going on as opposed to me taking this apart for a stupid spanner that's we're never going to hear and see. It's not going to rattle in there either, but it's just annoying. So I guess this is part of working on Audis without taking the whole car apart every time. But I will keep you guys updated. Okay, so I looked a bit more carefully here. That hack shop, look, they zip tied and drilled that in there. But there is, at the center of your screen there, a T20 or T30. There's another one, I think, way at the bottom that I have to reach in from service position. That electronic module there in the middle, it has a wire that runs way under the headlight, and I'm not going to go looking for that connector. I might remove this to reach back there and get it out. Hopefully I don't open a new can of worms with that zip tie there when I go to put this back on, but let's get the spanner out. Yeah, let's get the spanner out. Okay, you gotta laugh at situations like this, but these are actually crying-worthy situations. You see, the car is so low that my head won't even fit under there. Forget about getting under there to do anything. Okay, I thought I'd do a quick service position, change out that sensor, and be done with it. Because there's a T20... Oh, and here's the better part. my T20, my only T20 socket, is actually on the spanner that has fallen inside of the rad and the rad fan sandwich in there. So, and I need my T20 to get the bolts off for the cover. And the other thing I'm not sure of, which I don't think so, is, see those rusty bolts in the center, the 3 for the module? I might have to remove the module because the module seems like it goes a bit deeper than this plastic cover, and it also sandwiches the module into the plastic cover that I need to remove to get in there to get my spanner. So I'm not going to do that first. I'm going to gently try to get the plastic off first. If that doesn't go, then I'm going to get those bolts. But the bolt at the bottom for that and the bolts at the bottom for this rad, I can't even see them from the top. But I'm going to have to do it from the top, or I'm going to have to make the tough decision of, well, it's not even a tough decision. It's just the fact that it's on the internet and I tell you guys everything that happens. You know what? If people are going to unsubscribe, let them. Like, this car is going to be on jack stands again very soon, okay? I'm trying to make videos and get it all sorted out and do stuff. But even if that spanner doesn't come out, I'm telling you guys, it's in a spot where it cannot cause any damage to anything. I am sure. There's no wiring in there. The fans are way further up. Couldn't possibly damage anything. So, unless I jack the car up, we're probably going to leave it in there. If I do find the severe patience to try to find those bolts from the top, like I told you, I have to go buy another T20. And I actually see in there, my spanner would have been the best tool to use. So I'm not going to keep going on about whether I'm going to do this or not. You guys heard all the difficulties I went through. Whether I do it or not doesn't matter. Let's just continue with the flap sensor and everything else, and we'll make a decision on that at some point. Okay, I've already made my choice. Until the next time the car's on jack stands and service position, I can get my head under there. We're not going to touch it because the bottom bolt for that rad fan, I'd have to remove the belt and other stuff in service position just to get my hand down from the top. So it needs to be done from the bottom. Oh my God, what am I saying? I'm tired. Yeah, I might just jack up the car at the 2 front points and we'll get under there. But we'll do that later. For now, I'm just going to take the sensor off. That'll be it for this part of the video, and we'll continue later. Guess what, brilliant people? Well, not you, but me. The T20 and the tool that's required to now take this one sensor off is inside the radiator. So in this video, I will not be removing that sensor, although I have removed it before. You guys saw in the last part I did. So, yeah, that's it for now. I'm going to go to Home Depot. I'm going to buy another set of T20 Torx bits and another one of those Craftsman things because I don't want to take apart that rad. So, we're continuing. You know how? First, I realized I still have my T20 sockets that I can use, but I was feeling kind of defeated in that clip, and I reached down to see, can I feel the T20 bolt that's way down there so I can do it from the top. And lo and behold, the hack body shop for the dealer or whatever that sold this to the guy before me, or whoever, did not even connect it. So this side of the cover is held on by one zip tie that you guys saw earlier there, right there, with some drilled holes, the T20 over here, and hopes and dreams at the bottom. So if I ever find a plastic rattle from the front, although it's probably very low chance, we have another point to look at. But you see a car, even with small bumps and bruises like this, dealers cover everything up so that they can save a buck and make more profit. So, because I have these tools, actually tonight we are continuing, but I'm just going to keep my clips in consecutive order so that you guys can follow the whole journey of this car and the crazy things that happen when you try to fix an Audi in your garage. So there's a T20 and the zip tie. That zip tie was a bear to get out. I had to use needle nose pliers. Now, in here, in case some of you for some reason run into a situation like this, if you can change the module on its own, I don't know. Okay, but I'm just going to show you what I've seen so far. So there, if I can get good light on it, at the center of your screen is, you can see once you get the screw out, you still have to rotate it this way. See that tab there? Don't just pull out on it, you'll break the tab. Now that zip tie that those guys had in here was also restricting stuff at the end, because in the end the zip tie was part of the whole thing. But getting that in is going to be very hard, and to loop it, they probably had the whole front end of the car off. I'll still figure it out. Eventually we're going to do something at the bottom too. I want 3 points of contact on this, but it's been getting away with 2 for God knows how long. But when you do set this back, be really careful of that module, because there's wiring that goes all the way across. You don't want to tear anything or misplace anything. But let me try to find a way to show you guys what's going on in there, because you can't make this shit up. That spanner, this really low chance thing that occurred. I want you guys to see where it is. I haven't even attempted to take it out yet. So let me grab the right position to tilt that forward. Okay, my phone's probably gonna go flying, but if I can pry it enough there. Where is it? There it is! You see it? You see it in the center of the screen there? It's way down there. So I'm gonna reach in there with my pliers hopefully and pull it out, and it doesn't fall further in. But yeah, that's where it is. I don't know, maybe if we pull it all the... No, see, I don't know what's going on down there. These hacks might have done something else. And you never want to dismantle a hack's work. That's a rule of idiosyncrasies of cars. If it's been put together by someone shoddy, you leave it to the most that you can. So I'm just going to reach in from the top here to try to grab it, and we'll just continue. I haven't gotten my spanner out yet. I'm not trying to do that angle again. But that hack body shop had put in a support at the bottom. But you know what it was? It was the same zip tie that they put at the top. So this was held on by 2 zip ties and 1 bolt. And one of the zip tie at the bottom had given out. It was snapped when I looked in there, because I see the zip tie and some hole that they drilled through. So for those of you body shop people, not that they would care. Most body shops just do the shoddiest work they can and then sell themselves off as gods. But 2 zip ties will not hold such a thing in. There's a lesson on it, on a car like this that has this much vibration. Okay, 1 zip tie was broken. You need to have screws. So we have a repair point down there, but I mean, I got lucky that that zip tie was broken in this case, because it made my task a bit easier. But yeah, people, I'm at a loss for words. Okay, I'm just gonna try to grab that spanner and I'll let you know if I get it. Oh my god, I almost did another scary thing. That white residue there, I'm always seeing messed up stuff that I haven't discussed, and I have to on this channel because that's the style of the channel. That's just water. Oh my god, what do you call it? The water in California, what does it have? Calcium? My brain is brain farting hard. But water in California, I think Arizona too, I know California, it leaves behind a serious residue, okay? Water stains, water marks. This is just from me washing the engine bay a while back and not caring to clean that plastic too much, okay? Nothing crazy is going on there with that pipe. But I just tried to grab the spanner with this, and I started doing tip of the fingertips reaching in there, and I almost dropped this down there. I could have maybe picked it up, but that is not something I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so we're going to go back to trying the claw mechanism on the bendable magnet that you can buy probably. That's a Princess Auto one, but you Americans can probably buy something similar from Harbor Freight. So this only gets more tricky. Okay, it won't focus on those down there, but actually now you can see that zip tie on the left there that I was telling you was just hanging in there when I folded it forward and looked more carefully. That was already broken. And there is the... See, here's the hard part. The reason I can't grab it with the claw is because it gets smaller down there, the distance between the rad material, the metal rad material, and the plastic. So it's lodged in there. It needs a serious force to pick it up. It's not just hanging out in there. Whew, and if it makes a turn, if that thing falls sideways down there, I'm done. I don't think there's any way I could get it out. So I have one shot while it has fallen in there and it's still vertical to figure out a way to get it out. I'll let you guys know what continues to happen. I just dropped it right as I got over to the camera. I was trying to hold it in the exact position I got it. But the pliers, here, this is what it was like when I got it out. Now, how did I go in? I bloodied up both my knuckles, and I was holding, well, I didn't bloody up, I scratched them up. the right handle and the left handle, each one in one hand. I scraped my hands up against the fan, okay? Being careful not to damage the, what do you call them? Oh my god, my brain isn't working. Whatever, the fins in the radiator with the actual needle nose pliers. I just grabbed onto it and I slowly pulled it up and I just got it out and I dropped it by the time I carried it over to here and it fell there. Then I grabbed the camera. So we got it. Now we just have to get the sensor out. And as you can see, this here, I'm also going to reach in and grab that zip tie and pull it out because it wasn't doing anything. And then we'll reinstall the, eventually when we're back under the car and we're in service position or the front clip is off, I'll put a third point there. But I can get a zip tie back into the place that the hack shop had put there and put my T20 back, change our sensor, and we're back on the road, and we know that there is not a tool living inside of the car. So we're back in business to a degree, at least back to where the car was when we started. Okay, just to keep it in real pace here. Okay, when I reached down there, that zip tie was touching the rad fins. Not that it would melt it. Zip ties are made of pretty good material for the most part, but the point is, this is what I got out right now. See, there's the zip tie from the top in the center of your screen back there by the glove. And this is the one I just pulled out. And that's all that came out with it. But this was all the material that was inside, sandwiched between the radiator and the fan. Okay, so I'm happy this piece is out because this could get hot and something could happen, but most likely not. At least it's clean in there until we finally get this on perfectly, but car is going to be totally functional just like this. So purists, stop crying. It's fine. It's an old, average used RS4. We'll be okay. We're doing everything as properly as we possibly can, and we will get this car in much better shape. So now on to getting the actual sensor off. And you know what? We'll get the sensor because it's the weekend right now. When I get it, I'm going to put that whole... That's going to take 2 seconds to put back that cover there with the zip tie and the T20. I don't want to drop something in there again and have to take those apart and redo the zip tie because that zip tie is going to be a YouTube unfriendly word to put back and then cut and do again. It'll all be annoying to put back in the way they've drilled the holes. So we're going to leave that off. I'll take the sensor off. Obviously take off that plug. You can use a pick, screwdriver. It's a lot easier like this as opposed to carbon clean where you're not in service position. And yeah, 2 T20s. This vacuum line, okay, I have a bracket for it. It's not plugging into anything places it was supposed to be. I think the Christmas tree plug is worn out, which is right there to center your screen. But we'll deal with this stuff in the future. For now, it's fine and healthy. Let me get this off and we'll continue with everything. We'll get it all sorted. Hopefully you guys haven't signed off. Here's a sensor, okay? Now, I am 99% sure it's an electronic failure. But just to show you that these things always have surprises. Okay, I can't pick it out right now, but could get it with a pick, but that's a gasket around there, okay? Now, this is not some kind of vacuum area or something, but if that gasket is not seated it was seated correctly. The gasket just wanted to come off this time when I was prying the sensor off. So just make sure that gasket is seated correctly, or it could cause a vacuum leak possibly, but these cars just have a million surprises for you at every corner. So the gasket just tried to peel itself off, but it was on here correctly on the car. So it's most likely, hopefully, fingers crossed, the sensor. We'll get a new genuine one. I think they're over $200 now. There's some that are in the $80 range and even lower. I mean, I haven't made any videos on this. See, that's a power steering cooler at the front, and the secondary oil cooler is sandwiched right behind it. You see these bolts here? Those are adjustment. They have adjustment for the oil cooler line. I was just walking by here right now before going inside, and I saw that this pipe is just touching the power steering cooler a hair. So whether this was changed or, I mean, this whatever shop has clearly taken the front end of this car apart when they did repairs on it for whatever reason. But you see, they did not adjust these bolts. They didn't even know about this. Like, they should have adjusted this a little bit more backwards because this has for the longest time been touching that pipe slightly. Now I don't think it's touching to the point that it could ever puncture it, but you never know. Vibration over time. Even a pinhole leak, then you have an oil leak that you can't figure out. You got to take the front end apart, blah, blah. That's just ridiculous. So if you're doing an oil cooler, if you ever touch this line, use my car as an example here, that is just a hair touching that, and you need to adjust it outwards if you see this when you're in service position. I'm going to do that later. This point right here, right there at the dead center of your screen is what I'm talking about.